students, in this lecture we'll be focusing on the introduction and conclusion parts of your speech. So for this first half of the lecture, I would like you to be able to understand the functions of introductions. I would like you to understand attention getters and know the different types of attention getting devices. And I would like you to understand the parts to writing an effective introduction. So let's first of all look at the functions of introductions. The first function is that it helps gain audience attention and gives them a reason to listen. Essentially, with the introduction, it's a point to draw the audience into your speech. It's a way to get them to tie into your speech and to get them interested and engaged. If you don't have an effective introduction, this could lose your audience altogether and cause them to zone out and not listen at all. That's why it's important to grab the audience interest and attention right away, like right off the bat. It should be like your first sentence should get your audience attention right away. The function of an introduction is also to state the purpose of speech. So it's to give your audience an understanding of, are you informing them? Are you persuading them? Are you entertaining them? What are you doing? So what's the purpose? What's your goal? Another function is to establish credibility. It's a way to show your audience that you are credible and knowledgeable on the topic that you are focusing on. There are three components to credibility. The first is competence. Speaker is perceived as knowledgeable on the subject. A couple ways. One way to do that would be to maybe either share a story about your experiences with the topic, or maybe you had a job that kind of pertained to that topic, or maybe like me, for my thesis, my master's thesis, I wrote on disability, so I shared kind of my stories of being a professor with a disability. That's a way to kind of show your speaker that, hey, this is how I relate to the topic, and this is how I connect them an expert to the topic. Trustworthiness. Speaker is perceived as honest. So when you have credible sources, like you're being perceived as trustworthy, you want to show your audience that you are trustworthy and that you are reliable. And one way to do that is to show how you know about this topic and how you relate it to the topic. The last aspect of credibility is caring. Audience member perceives speaker as caring towards audience members. Some of you show your caring side towards, like, you might say, okay, we all know cell phones while driving are dangerous. And in this speech, I'm going to teach you how to become more safer on the roads or something like that. You show your audience that you care about them and that you acknowledge them. And it provides reasons to listen, as I mentioned above, and also previous main points. So usually, after you state your thesis statement in the introduction, you'll go, so today I will be talking to you about the problems of cell phones while driving, the causes, and then some solutions. So that just gives you a preview of what you will be discussing in your speech. Gives your audience a heads up of what they can expect from your speech. So now let's look at attention getters. Things to consider when writing an attention getter. Appropriateness, relation to the audience. It should be relatable to the audience. It should connect to the audience in some way. Maybe you could share a story and say, I'm sure you all can relate. Like maybe, let's say you were writing about dog bites, and you'd say, I'm sure some of you at some point in your life have had a dog bite or something like that. So making sure that it's appropriate for the audience, but also that it's relatable and it's going to be useful to them. The purpose of the speech. So you should always consider the purpose. Are you informing them or persuading them? Because that will influence your attention getter for sure. And also consider your topic. You don't want to give an attention getter about dogs if it's not about dogs. So make sure that your attention getter is tied in directly and fits directly with your topic. And occasion. Your attention getter should fit the occasion. If it's a toast, you might want to have a different attention getter than you would if it was a persuasive speech. So always consider the occasion. Okay, now let's look at attention-getting devices. The first is about quotation, so you can quotate it from the source. I would recommend that you cite the source verbally because that'll help give some credibility to your speech and it'll help show you as a credible speaker. I would definitely recommend citing that quotation. Reference to current event as it relates to topic. So maybe there's some current event in the news that you could relate to a topic. That could be a good attention getter, something that is currently happening now and connecting it to your topic. Reference to a historical event. Maybe you're writing about survivor stories and you decide to go to the historical event of 9/11 and share some of those stories or kind of connect it to the tragic event of 9/11 and then connect it with your topic. Anecdote is brief story to teach life lessons. It was kind of like when I said before, like in my thesis, I stated kind of my experiences of being a professor with a disability. That is something you could do, is give like a brief story, like a brief something that happened in your life and how that kind of connects with the topic you're discussing. Start on statement, make sure it is factual and relevant to the audience. Make sure that it is something that's relevant. Don't just startle your audience just to spook them or to get them engaged. That's not the purpose. You just need to make sure that it connects with your audience. Yes, it is about getting them engaged and interested, but it's also about that it actually relates and connects with the audience. Ask the audience a question. So maybe if you were doing a speech on dot bites, you could say, have you ever had a dot bite before? Just get the audience to kind of think about your speech. Humor, you have to be a little bit careful. Make sure that you're not going overboard. With humor, just make sure you make it kind of a lighthearted comment, but don't go overboard. It's okay for one lighthearted comment, but don't go overboard. And then share about yourselves, like I had mentioned, about my master's thesis. And then refer to an occasion. It should refer to an occasion. Maybe you could share, like if you were like giving I don't know, like a toast at a wedding, you might say, hey, on wedding days, or something like that. Refer to the occasion somehow. Refer to the main theme of the event, whatever you're going to. Would also be a good attention-getting device. So parts to writing an effective introduction. Linking to topic. Speaker explains how attention getter connects with topic. So kind of after you do your attention getter, you kind of link it to your topic. And then you also give reasons, lessons, which explain to audience why a topic is important. So after you say your attention getter and kind of linking it, you then say, well, this is important because like if you were giving a speech with cell phones while driving, you might say, well, this is important because there's so many accidents happening across the United States. You might say, according to such and such, there are so many accidents. Say why they should listen and why it's important is essentially what you want to do with your introduction. And then appearing credible. Explaining to the audience how you are knowledgeable on the subject or show that you have done your research to become knowledgeable. Maybe say, hey, I looked up this subject and I kind of found this out or something like that. To show that you've done your research and you know about your topic. Or like I said before, share a story or share personal experience to show that you have knowledge on that topic. Thesis statement and main points. Thesis statement states the main intent or purpose of a speech. Lets the audience know what you are going to be talking about. It should appear at the end of the introduction, right before saying your main point. So your thesis is basically your central argument of the speech. What are you trying to argue? Is what your thesis statement is. Then right after that, you go into your main points and say, today I'm going to talk about this. And your main points support that thesis statement. They support that argument in your thesis statement. They help back it up. And how to write a thesis statement? Choose a topic and narrow. Remember we talked about being as narrow. Don't just start with the broad topic of like English. Go narrow. Maybe go to like a specific book. Make sure it's narrow. Put topic into one sentence. So just one sentence. What do you argue? Like euthanasia is bad because this. That would be a sentence like the start of a thesis statement. And then add facts if informative. Or your opinion or view of speech. So add a fact if it's informative. Maybe even cite source might be a good idea. Or your opinion or view. So I strongly believe that cell phones while driving are dangerous because of this and this. And then preview of speech. Previews the main points of the speech that supports the thesis. Each point is a sticky point in the body paragraph. So each point is a different point that connects to your thesis. That supports the thesis and supports the argument and backs it up. Alright, now that we have looked at introductions, we are going to now go into conclusion. So at the end of this part of a lecture, I would like you to understand what makes a strong conclusion, and I would also like you to understand parts of a conclusion. So first of all, let's look at what makes a strong conclusion. Well, signals again. So you go, in conclusion, cell phones while driving is dangerous because this and this. Then you state your main points. Aids audience memory of the speech. It's what helps your audience remember your main points. It helps your audience remember your thesis statement. It helps your audience remember what you had said. Is essentially what a conclusion does. It's kind of one last final ending to get the audience to either do or kind of to get them to really, really think about your speech. Serial position of fact. People remember ideas that are either stated first or last. It is important to restate your main ideas in the conclusion as it allows your audience to remember your main points. So it allows your audience to not only remember your main points and your main ideas, but also helps them remember your thesis and all the other important aspects of your speech, especially the main points. But it also helps you remember the main points that you had discussed in your thesis or in your speech. A strong conclusion is important as it is your final chance to really explain the approach of the message. It is your last chance to take a stance, to really, really argue for yourself, to really, really get that message across. Because in the beginning, you have to get that message across by engaging and pulling in. But in the conclusion, you also have to engage and pull in the audience and say, this is why I believe this. You really have to take your stance and get them to do what you would like them to do, especially in a persuasive speech. So steps to a conclusion. Make sure you restate your thesis. So you would do in conclusion, then restate your thesis. And then you would restate your main points after restating your thesis. And then, like we talked about attention gain devices, we're also going to briefly talk about the concluding devices, which are final thought you want your audience to have. So conclude with the challenge, maybe get the audience to sign a petition to ban cell phones while driving. Maybe get the audience to sign a petition to help rescue dogs who are being euthanized, or whatever you might choose to do. End with a quotation or a question. Maybe end with some, like, so what do you think now? Do you think we should ban cell phones with driving, or something like that? Or end it with, like, some specific quotation. Like, is your life more important? Or is that call more important? I remember I said that in one of my speeches, and I thought it was kind of a good way to end it, because it allowed the audience to kind of think, ooh, she's got a good point, right? And then you could conclude with a call for action. So you could say, please, please take action now. We must do something to stop cell phones while driving. We need a ban or something like that to really get the audience to take action. Conclude by inspiration, stir audience emotions to really make an impact on them. Maybe say something really, really inspirational. Like if you were giving a speech on like disabilities, you might say, know that you can fight for your dreams no matter what, and no one can tell you any differently, or something like that. Something that'll really inspire and hit them the most. Conclude with advice, speaker's opinion of what should or shouldn't be done. So maybe giving them a little advice, which would be especially useful if you were giving like a ceremonial speech at a graduation or something like that. This might be good, like to give them a little bit of last words of wisdom. You could also include with a solution, like I said, maybe suggesting a ban for cell phones while driving might be a good concluding with solution. And conclude with reference to the audience. Speaker answers when it's in it for me. So maybe you could like say like, so next time that you're on your cell phone, think about the lives that you're risking, or just say something that's going to make them realize, hey, you know, this really is a serious topic and something needs to be done. All right, well, that concludes our lecture for today, and thank you so much.